This is Derek Hansen for StrengthPowerSpeed.com, and I'd like to welcome you to our 8th episode of our Performance Concepts Chat series. In this episode, we're speaking to an athlete that I've known since 2003, who's basically had what I consider an amazing career through a multitude of sports. His name is Paul Cheng, and like I said, I first met him in 2003. He was finishing off a football career in college, embarking on a pro football career, and I had helped him with some aspects of speed and strength, and I think it helped. But more importantly, I developed a friendship with Paul and really got to follow his career from there with amazement. So in this episode, we talk to Paul about his youth and growing up as an Asian youth athlete, and finding out that really his parents didn't really see what he was aiming for, and why they wanted him to have academic success, and they didn't see the value in having a sports career. So Paul definitely showed them that he could make his way in the world of sport, and going from high school to college to pro football, we cover that in this episode. But also there's some strange twists as well that we cover, and I think you're really going to enjoy his story, see some of the recurring themes in terms of him facing adversity, him moving forward, maybe sidestepping a couple of times, and just finding a different path. And his nickname, when he was fighting, was the Typhoon. So again, we've called this the path of the Typhoon, and it has been an amazing path, and you'll really enjoy the way he tells the stories. So, I hope you enjoy part 1 of our talk with Paul Cheng. So Paul, I really wanted to get you on the podcast because we've had a lot of different people on who are deeply tied into the coaching, the preparation, strength and conditioning, science. And I wanted to talk to an athlete. And the first person I thought of was you, because not only were you an athlete, but you have this broad experience. And if we go through, and we're going to talk about all this, like in terms of college football, pro football, bobsleigh, boxing, mixed martial arts, stunt work and acting in Hollywood, which is athletic too. That they can't pull somebody off the street and say jump off of this car. WWE, you had some involvement there. Arena football in China, and we're going to go through all of this. And the thing for me is, I want to talk to you about, one, what motivated you to do all this and keep going, because it's very easy for somebody to do a sport and then go, I'm going to retire and just become a regular person. And you've obviously resisted that temptation, or you've just, things have just worked out for you. So I think this is really interesting for people to hear about how you've worked from sport to sport. And obviously you have some natural talent that's helped. But I want to go through this, and I want people to hear your story, because I think it's a great story. And how old are you right now?
38.
38 years old. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of great stories in here. So we're going to start from the beginning. And if you can give me some background on, and when you were a child, growing up in Toronto, and what sports did you start with? What encouragement did you get from your parents? And just how did it start?
Okay. Well, I grew up in, I was born in Taipei, Taiwan. And then I grew up there till about age 9. So about 9 years old. I immigrated to Canada. And then in Chinese culture, it's not a very, it's not very sports oriented.
Sure.
So
I'm half Chinese.
Yes,
I
totally
understand.
I get it. Yeah, I'm sure you get it. So it's like, my parents pushed me to succeed academically, and that's about it. And then when I came to Canada, I wasn't very physically fit, and I was quite chubby, and just didn't know too much what was going on. Didn't speak English, and go to school, people would pick on you because you kind of don't speak the language. And then I was like a pudgy short kid with big glasses.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't feel very athletic, but not very confident. And then I started figuring and then we kind of move on a little bit. Elementary school still nothing particular, but I started growing.
Okay.
I started growing, so I was like, wow, this is, and I'm starting getting bigger. So I was like, oh, people are not picking on me as much. And then I found sports.
So just the physicality, you recognize that there's something to it.
Yeah, and then I wrestled. The first sport I ever picked up was wrestling. I wrestled, I think, when I was in grade 4 and grade 5. Just something I did. And then it was like, and I started figuring out I was a pretty strong kid. And then, it gave me a little bit more confidence. Mm-hmm. And then just, my English got better. Things got a lot better for me. And then I watched football on TV. Okay. And I was like, I saw the Buffalo Bills. And then all the Super Bowls we lost. Oh, God. And it was just like, and I just clicked. And that's all I ever wanted to do. And I was like, I went to my mom and dad. I was like, I never saw this sport because it's not in Asia. American football is not a big sport. Not a big sport outside of North America.
Yes.
Especially about 25. Was it 25 years ago?
Yeah, that long ago.
That long ago. So my parents, and then I just wanted to get a football so bad. And my mom and dad would be like, no, what is that? Mm-hmm. What is that?
Yeah.
There's a basketball, there's a soccer ball, there's a baseball. What kind of ball is that? So I'm kind of like, it's a football. And it's like, no, football's a soccer ball. No, it's a football. And then it was just like, it was kind of always wanted to do it, but they wouldn't let me. And then until high school, mm-hmm. and then I went to go try out for the team. And then things were like, and I was pretty tall. I came back from California visiting some friends, and then I grew, and I was like 6 foot tall, like 200 pounds in grade 9.
Wow.
So I was like pretty big kid. So I tried out for the football team, and then I was okay, but again, still not very aggressive, not, relatively timid.
Did you have good coaches back then? Was there anybody who kind of encouraged you and said, hey?
Yes. And just like I've had like my coach Mativier, a coach, a track coach, mm-hmm. and he coached me on football. He kind of like, it was a mentor for me. I had a few coaches. There was a few coaches through my high school career that really kind of helped me, bring me along. And then I never knew some of the stuff they would teach me. And then I would still use, my old wrestling coach, Mr. Orsi, taught me a double leg takedown. And then that was what I did all the time. And then sometimes I joke with him. I was like, did you see that? And then he's like, yeah, I watched that. I was like, nice double leg. I was like, yeah, I know who taught me that. So yeah, just like, and then, with my football coaches, there was like several football coaches that kind of really, really helped me. And then I got, but again, I was just like, it was a process because I wasn't very aggressive. And then, it wasn't one of those things that my parents weren't like, I didn't have parents that were like, hey,
coming to every game,
come on, son, you got to do this. I'm like, hey, my parents never watched me play. Not till I got to the pros.
Yeah.
Actually, my dad came to one college game. My last one, because I asked him to. But, yeah, it was just, I know it was something I drove for myself because I saw that on TV, and then I wanted to be, that's what I wanted to do. And then it just inspired me, and then I just wanted to keep going and going. I went to the gym. We lived at my community center. I was like, neither I was going to practice or I was at the community center lifting weights on my own.
Yeah, you didn't have any guidance?
Well, and I had a few people. There was a few people, like some of the trainers kind of at the gym that kind of taught me. And we're right by York University. Mm-hmm. So there would be athletes sometimes coming through. And then I would get to pick their brains.
Okay.
So we had a couple like York University football players. And then they would come, and then I met at our little underground gym, and then we'd be like talking, and they helped me out. And I remember one time there was I think I was in grade 11, like a defensive end from, I think his name, I never forget his name, Reinhard Keller. He was a second round pick. He came out of Wilfrid Laurier University. He was an all Canadian, and then I just thought it was so cool. And the guy was like super nice. And he was like, and then I was playing defensive line at the time. And then at grade 11, I really didn't have that jump yet. And the guy was, and I remember him telling me, hey, I'm going to be around here for about 2 weeks. So if you come here at this time every day, I'll show you something. And then I would go there every day at that time. right after school, and then I would just like for the I think it was 2 weeks. He showed me something new every day, and I brought it into my high school season, and I started getting good. And
Yep.
finally, I was like, I wasn't really much in nothing. Grade 11, grade 9, grade 10, nothing special. Grade 11 started, I made an all-star team in grade 11 at the end of the grade 11 season. And then after grade 12, I didn't get to play high school football because, no, actually, no. Grade 12 I played. And in my last year, because in Ontario we had grade 13 at the time, I didn't get to play because we didn't have a high school team. And that cost me my football scholarship. I believe that kind of cost me a Division I scholarship,
Wow.
to be honest. Because I ended up having to play community football. But in Toronto, it's kind of like, it's like midget, so it's under 19. And then we played in an Ottawa league, which featured like the competition. They said was very comparable to Florida 4A, because Jesse Palmer played in that league. The Bachelor, the New York Giants quarterback.
Yeah.
So I got to play. I played against him a
Nice.
few games. And then he went to University of Florida and started and all that stuff. So that was kind of, I kind of saw the benchmark where we had to be at.
Okay.
So because we saw like the number one recruit in the whole entire country, a 5-star quarterback and stuff like that, right?
But there's obviously something that set you apart, and somebody recognized that you had some talent.
Yes.
And then that allowed you to move on to the next.
Yes, we had these, I guess in Ontario back at the time, this guy called Ron Dias. And I played for a team called the Mississauga Wolverines, coached by my coach John Simas, which he was a fantastic, one of the best football coaches I've ever had. And then, and I played in this midget league with all these guys. That's like basically kind of an all-star team. Like I think it ended up on the Mississauga Wolverines. Sorry, it was like our team ended up having, I think, of the 22 guys that started, I think we probably had like 15 guys go play at university.
Wow.
And then we had our running back was Kerry Carter, so he played 3 years with the Seahawks and won a couple Grey Cups with the Alouettes and stuff like that. So it was a pretty stacked, like a pretty crazy team.
And what positions were you playing predominantly?
I played defensive end.
Okay.
I played defensive end, and then that's what I played. That's defensive end, defensive tackle in high school. And then my body started catching up, so I was getting to be about 250 pounds. And then my mom finally started coming around, so I was begging her every year to send me to these football camps. So she ended up sending me to University of Michigan camp. And then we were going to this, all these, Ron Dias had these evaluation camps back in the day when NCAA Div 1 teams just started coming back to up to Canada about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I guess. No, sorry, but 20-something years ago. So they were just coming. It was just kind of, back then it was rare. Like in 1990, before 2000, rare for NCAA teams to come up to Canada and get kids. But now, it's very, it's
common.
It's coming. It's a common thing.
Yeah, and
So-
I'm sure it's a lot easier now that people can post their video up and anybody can see it.
I still remember having to make a cassette and sending my cassette. I remember my having to get a dub of a VHS tape and then wrap it up and then send it to the school that wants it. And then you just worry the quality's not good enough. And then now you just post it online and then share it and you got like 800 views.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I still remember getting those bubble envelopes, saving my allowance or whatever, or my job, selling video games at the flea market so I could buy these envelopes and get these video cassettes so I could send them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely easier, but obviously you found a place to play and you did want to play American football.
Yes. I wanted to play American football really badly. And then, yes, and I thought I was going to get a Division I scholarship. And then, but I had a funny story. I went to University of Michigan camp at the University of Michigan.
Nice.
That was like my dream. I wanted to be a Wolverine. That was my thing. And then
You and Tom Brady.
oh yeah, I wish. But anyways, so it was my grade 12 going to grade 13 year, and I was like, and I had a great camp, everything was going great.
Wow.
And then I got invited to their top prospects. They had they pulled all the best kids because they had a smokehouse, they called it. So we had to race 40s. And I didn't know how to run at the time. So I'm kind of sitting there just like, I'm racing all the top, like a bunch of 4-star, 5-star recruits from the U.S.
Yeah.
I didn't run very well.
Okay.
And then I think I posted like a 5.3, something ridiculous.
Okay.
And then my Division I dreams are like shattered.
Just from that?
Yeah, because nobody knew about me. And then I went there, I tore up a camp.
Yeah.
I was doing really well. And then I ran like a 5.3 something, I think, or 5.2 something, or something, I don't know. It wasn't good. And then...
Well, that's interesting because the NFL Combine is this week, right? So
yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying it wasn't good. And then... But at the end of the camp, I still got this trophy, and I still remember.
You still got that trophy?
I still have this Miss University of Michigan trophy.
Awesome.
I went because there was a top prospects thing. They gave out like these top prospects trophies for the top whatever, the top 50 or top 20. There was like hundreds and hundreds of kids for every position.
Yeah.
So they gave out a top position award. So I got one, and I was going up to get my award. I was so excited because I was like, wow, I didn't think I ever get this. It wasn't a participation award. I actually did really well. I still have this award. My mom still has it. Actually, no, I have it in my house.
Okay.
And then I walked up, and then the coach at the time, it was, I have a picture. In my, but anyways, I still remember the defensive coordinator, Greg Madison.
Yeah.
And he was the defensive coordinator of Notre Dame, I think, for like 3 or 4, maybe 4 years ago. And I still remember this to this day. I went up to get my award, and the head coach was turned to him. He was like, hey, who was that? I was walking away because I was so excited to get my award.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to get anything. Nobody ever gets anything. And I got this award. I was just walking away. He's like, don't bother. Too slow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what they said. I remember that. And then I was so hurt in my life. And then I just was like, and then I realized how important speed and athleticism and proper technique was at that moment in my life.
Sure.
Because I've never practiced a 40. I never practiced any of this stuff. So I went and looked, and then I was playing football, and then all of a sudden I was like, Coach Mativier, at the track coach, our track coach.
Yep.
It's like, can you teach me how to run?
Yeah.
And then he took his time, and I never forget it, and I just made sure I can run.
Wow.
And I took the time, and I ran with the track team, and and I did whatever I had to do.
Great.
And then I ran well after. I ran well. But it was kind of late because it was like grade 12, and then like when I went to that camp, like I had a few schools that would just like follow me around drooling because they knew we never heard of this kid. So this kid could be in our pocket. And I kind of ran that bad time, which was my fault. And I believe every kid.
Well, it's not your fault. It's
yeah.
It was a situation, your circumstances where you didn't have anybody to teach you, right?
No, yeah, and then and I figured it out. That's why I'm just like, for every athlete, when you start figuring these realities out, go seek help, go get help, and go try.
Which is interesting because when we were working together, I never had a problem convincing you that sprint training was important.
Yes, and it was from that moment ever. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. Walked up, it's your dream school, and you finally begged my mom for 4 years to get to this camp, and she paid the money. I had the best time. I got to beat some of those 4 and 5-star recruits, and it was, you're too slow.
So did they never followed up with you ever?
No, they followed up a little bit,
okay,
just to see how things were going, but it wasn't like, it could have been something. They were like excited.
Yeah. Like if you ran 4.9,
if I ran 4.9, I'd probably be Tom Brady's teammate. If I ran 4.9 that day, no offense, I'd probably be Tom Brady's teammate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I did pretty well. I believe I did pretty well, and a lot of coaches saw me that I did pretty well. And I remember I still remember, I think I was like number 15 or no, almost getting to the top 10 of the D linemen of the whole country.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden I dropped to like 25 or something crazy like that on a time. And then you're sitting there just like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. But I figured it out. And then I ran.
Yeah.
I ran under 5. I ran under 5.
Yeah.
I did run under 5.
Well, it's interesting that, I didn't know that story, honestly. But
that's what I wanted to share. But that story happened.
Because if you did go play with Tom Brady, maybe you wouldn't have done all this other stuff we're going to talk about.
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay, so you didn't get picked up by Michigan, but you did get picked up by university, and what was that experience like? And
I got, and then after getting myself exposed, going to these combines and big camps and stuff, and then coaches are coming calling, and then I wanted to play American football. That was one of my big goals. So I had a few NCAA Division II schools that, and then I had I don't remember. I think I had a couple schools that offered me visits, like AIC, American International College. I think some Ashland University or something like that.
Sure.
But something in Ohio. And then a couple Div 2 schools, and then I was like, ugh. But do I really? And then I thought to myself, am I gonna? And then these schools are offering maybe 50 or 75%, and you're still like kind of out of pocket, $8,000 to $10,000 US minimum. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, so I want to play in the US, but what can I do? And then Simon Fraser came around, and we're practicing, or we were playing NAIA at the time, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, and they offered me a scholarship. And I'll never forget that day. Neither Coach Beaton came to my house, sat in my house, and didn't leave my house until I signed my letter of intent.
Good.
I was like, you know what? How do you say no when a guy flies from Vancouver to Toronto, sits in your living room? I'm not like sits in your living room and make sure you sign your letter of intent before he left.
Yeah. That's great.
That's I some people have things to say, but I've never had a really big problem with the guy. Yeah, I thought he was good. He was a good coach. He treated me fair.
He put the time in for you.
Yeah, he put the time in for me. Flew to Toronto, came to my house, made sure I signed that thing. So regardless of what anyone says about him, I have no ends no gripes at all.
Okay, well, let's talk a bit about your college experience, and I don't want to rush you, but we got a lot of sports to cover.
Oh, I know. Sorry. Yeah, I have. That's why I can. If I want to get talking, I can talk all day about all kinds of stuff.
So you played D-end.
Yes. Oh, I know. I played 3 technique defensive tackle at Simon Fraser University. So I had like I played 5 years there. I was a 4-year starter, and then I made NAIA honorable mention All-American my last year. But again, I wasn't the best player on my team. There was a few pretty. I played with some real good players across my time, but
obviously, I mean, you got some attention. Like people said, okay, this guy's got some potential, and
yes, because as I figured out, I was stronger than most people, and then all of a sudden, I figured out how to run. I was faster than most people, so I was a big guy, big strong kid that can run. So I guess in this sport, it helps.
Now, and I don't want to harp on this, but did you ever find that because you were Asian that people said, well, maybe this guy, doesn't fit the mold?
Yes, I actually had a experience like this. Ole Miss called my house one time, and then they asked me, the coach on the phone, I don't remember who it was. It was the one phone call I got from them, and I'll never forget it. They called me and they said, hey, I sent my tape. My tape was kind of, I have a copy of it still. It's kind of blurry, and then I look quite dark in it. So he was like, so is your mother black? And I was like, no. I was like, you Chinese? I was like, yes. And I was like, really? And then I was 6'3", 250 pounds. And they're like, you're 6'3", 250 pounds? And I was like, yup. It's really? Well, I'm going to have to call you back. And I never got that call back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, and I'm not trying to, football has been one of the best sports. I met so many friends, so many great people through it, but I'm not trying to, but it was really weird. I was usually the only Asian kid on my team.
Sure.
Any level. Actually, no, sorry. I played with Paul Cheng in college, but after that, it was just, you know, it was quite different, quite a different experience for myself.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, you know, like one of the reasons why my mother kind of was against me playing this sport was like, you know, what you like to watch the sport on TV, but do you ever see a kid? Do you ever see a Chinese kid on that field? I was like, no. So why you watch it? But I've always thought in my mind, I was like, hey, I can be the first one.
Sure. Sure.
And
break down some barriers.
Yeah, break down some barriers. You know, because I always say it. I have this always say, you can't have second if you don't have the first one. Even if the first one only has a cup of coffee, you know. But again, there's some. At least you have a role model to, not even a role model, somebody to look to.
Yep.
It's possible. It's possible.
So you had a relatively successful college career. You have an opportunity to possibly get drafted into the Canadian Football League. How did that go?
Oh, and then the opposite situation happens. I become like a combine stud.
Well, which is interesting because obviously you learned from that.
Yeah, I learned from my first mistake.
Yep.
But I ended up having this thing. I need to be bigger, stronger, faster. And I forgot about the other stuff. So I was like this meathead mentality. But I ran real fast. I was like 275, 280 pounds. So I ran 4.9 or 4.89 or something like that. Ran like, and bench press 225. Who knows how many times? You saw that.
Yeah, like 39, at least 39.
And then, you know, but forgot I need to play football and technique. And, you know, you got to have heart, desire. You're just not about running real fast and lifting a lot of weight.
Yeah, good point. Definitely a good point. And so how when you got into the pros, what was your experience there?
Well, I guess, you know, I was young and stupid. One thing is like, you know, I think a lot of athletes, you know, when things don't work out, sometimes is we blame other people.
Sure.
You know, some people. And then for a long time in my life, I blamed everybody else. But myself. I'm going to be honest. This is just about honesty. So I'm like, and I didn't realize people were trying to help me. And then I just was like, you know, I work hard. I worked hard all the way up. And then I was like, I wasn't even the best player on my team. But all of a sudden, you know, I was a first round pick. I went to the combine. And then all of a sudden, you know, your head swells a little bit.
Okay.
You know, and then all of a sudden, and then I went to training camp. Things were good. Things were going good. My knees started getting rough. A lot of reps. Just a lot more reps than smaller rosters, and guys were getting hurt. But, you know, like I was taking a lot of reps, but I didn't mind. It was my dream. And then knees didn't feel so hot. I had like some patella tendonitis, and again I was too top heavy. I'm gonna be honest. I can blame everybody else on the planet, but I'm sitting there just like thinking back. I was like top heavy. I was like 285 pounds of all chest, like, and all of a sudden I couldn't bend. Things were affecting me, and I don't know. Things were just, you know, like, and then I picked up long snapping while I was in college. And then, like, you know, once your head goes, you can't do anything, right? Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Like, yep. And I just started bouncing, and then I just shut myself off, didn't want to talk to people, didn't want to listen to people anymore, you know? And then when you can't function with your coaches, you have no confidence, you know, yep. You're done as an athlete. And I'm just going to tell you guys, you know, hey, you have problems, go deal with your problems. Don't run away with it. That's with any athlete, you know? Hey, mm-hmm. And then being able to bench 500 pounds ain't going to help you. I'm going to tell you that right now. Just plain and simple. It'll help you in a powerlifting competition, but, you know, in a real athletic event, sometimes, you know, don't need that.
So, and I know I understand what happened in those situations, and then you obviously tried some other things like Arena League.
Yes. I remember, Derek, you were helping me for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up trying out and then I was bouncing around the CFL. So I went to BC, then came to Calgary, and then I got cut. And then I was like, oh my God, it was a shock in my life. And then I didn't know what to do. We went to bobsled, and then after I ended up getting a Arena League tryout with. Actually, I flew down to an open tryout. Got on a plane, bought a ticket to Colorado, and then went to Denver. And then went to an open tryout. and then did pretty good. We worked on it. I ran a 5:08 on a wet grass, like wet, like I don't know, like maybe 3 inches long of grass, wet grass.
Yeah.
I ran, and then I beat a lot of people that day, even the skinnier guys.
Yeah.
Because they were like, wow. So it was pretty. So I was proud of myself, but again, I remember running on that hell altitude 1 lap, and I thought I was gonna die. Literally ran 1 lap, and I was like, "Why am I out of gas?" So yeah, that was pretty crazy. And then it ended up bringing me into training camp.
Okay.
For 3 days, so I had a little tryout of that. That's when, I never realized arena. That was my little taste of arena football. But I never realized it would come back.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that.
Yes.
But I want to go back. There was a point there where we, I was training with you, and I'm like, okay, this guy's really strong, good speed for that size, but also, I was doing some work with bobsleigh at the time, and they're like, hey, we want guys that are strong, fast. If they're heavy, great too. So I'm like, okay, come out for this tryout. You did the tryout, and they're like, yeah, we want to take him to Calgary, and we want to see what he can do, right? so I'm like, yeah, why not, eh? This chance of a lifetime. So tell me about that.
Oh my God, yeah. So I still remember. Yeah, didn't know what to do, and then you told me about this bobsled tryout. So I was like, okay. I was like, maybe I can go to the Olympics. Not the best idea. I'm going to be honest. It was fun. We went to Calgary, and then we got to learn how to, in the summertime, we got to push bobsleds.
Yep.
And then learn how to push a bobsled. It was quite an interesting experience. And then
you did that indoors, right?
Indoors, yeah. We was in the summertime. And you know what? Crazy things. On that trip. Hilarious. I'll tell you this.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
On that trip, you know who I met? I met the future. We trained with the future Olympic gold medalist, that Kaylee, that blonde hair.
Okay.
Yeah, the Olympic gold medalist. She was only 18 years old at the time, and then I ran into America world champion of skeleton Katie Eulander. We still talk once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
She's world champion now. And I still remembering, we were talking the other day about how I used to drive her around in my little Pontiac Sunfire during tryouts. And then I got to meet on this crazy sports journey. I met an Olympic gold medalist and a world champion. I was like, looking back, and I was like, wow. And then, obviously you see Pierre Luters and people like that, great Canadian bobsledders. It didn't work out so well for me. I'm going to be honest. I can push from the back. I tripped on the left side, and after, mental blocks, when you almost die on a bobsled track, a practice track, that's never happened before,
So what happened? Tell me. I mean, you told me.
Another funny story. Our practice tracks are like this, a U. So we were pushing from the left side. I always remember. So in bobsled, you push, and you run, and then as you see the slope go down, when you're on the side, you gotta cross your feet to hit that little plate. So as I cross most sports we don't cross our feet.
No, they tell you don't cross your feet.
Don't cross your feet. Yeah. But this is against most sports knowledge. And when you're running as fast as you can, and the sled's coming down, and you see this big drop, you want to get in there pretty quick. And then I tripped, so it kind of locked me, and then all of a sudden it pulled me like Superman style. I was flying down this ramp, like getting pulled, and I'm like, my life is over. God damn you, Derek. I'm kidding. And then, so I let go. I roll down to the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
But remember, it's a U.
Yeah, the sled goes up the far end.
Up the far end, it comes back.
Yeah.
So I was kind of out on the bottom. And then I get up, and I'm just like, huh? And I think this was the first time I realized I had a pretty good chin, because I was like, I fell out of bobsled, rolled down the hill, and I wasn't like knocked out. So I decide I get up, and I'm like looking up, and then all I see is my coach. I think it was Matt Hindle. He's screaming, Paul, watch out! And then I'm like still groggy, and I look up, and I see him, and then he's like, watch out! And then I'm like, look back. Oh, I see the sled coming back. I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, what am I going to do? And then the hill's like this on ice. I'm like, I don't think I could run up there. And then there's these sidebars, so I decided to jump off the side of refrigeration. I jumped off the side of the track.
Yeah.
So, and then my feet hit the... I thought it was a big drop, but I'm glad I jumped and my feet hit the piping.
Oh, okay.
So I lived. Fairly.
But definitely prepared you for your stuntman career. Yeah.
And then I was like, after that, I saw my life flash before my eyes a few times. And then apparently that's never happened in bobsled Canada history. Guy crashing. Apparently that's me. Oh, first of many things. But yeah, so that was my bobsled story. But, but here's another interlude. This is another story I haven't told people about.
Yeah.
When I was working out in bobsled, I met the Hart family. So it was Brett the Hitman Hart's brother. I think it's Bruce Hart.
Okay.
I don't want to. And he actually, I met him in the Olympic facility while we were doing max bench, max squat. So I remember I close grip bench like 425 pounds that day, and then squatted like 500 pounds and ran a 40 to 60 meter dash to national standard. And then I was like, the guy saw me and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come meet my dad?" I was like, "Your dad?" And he's like, "Oh, I am." I was like, "Hart." I was like, "No." I was a wrestling fan since I was a kid.
Sure.
So I ended up meeting Stu Hart. He actually invited me to the Hart house.
Okay.
So I skipped bobsled practice because I figured I'm not going to do this and I'm going to die. So I skipped bobsled practice one day and I ran up to the Hart house. And I got to meet Stu Hart in his bedroom a month before he passed away.
Wow.
And I swear to God on my life, this happened. And then I never knew this was ever going to come back at me.
Sure.
But it did. And so I ended up, so you never know what these little crazy things happen to you. It's going to bring you later on in your life.
Yep.
And I got to watch a whole wrestling practice from the dungeon.
So then they got a basement facility.
Yeah, so basically the house is a big giant house with like a whole bunch of floors, and there's like wrestlers that live there, and they have a basement facility, old school basement facility that they train at called the dungeon.
Wow.
So I was at the top floor. I met Stu Hart. I shook his hand, and then he was like, I still remember this. He turned to his son, told him to come here, and then he was like, in pretty rough shape at the time.
Sure.
So he was like, he told him. I tell this story. I haven't told this story a lot, but just I remember him saying, just like, "Wow." He asked me a few questions. He kind of just like, "You Chinese?" I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "You're 6'2"? And I was like, "No, 6'3". And then I remember he asked me, he was like, and he grabbed me, and he was like 250, and I was like, "No, 275." And then he was just all excited. You could tell.
He's on his deathbed. He's excited to meet you.
Yeah, he was excited. It was just like, wow. And then I think it was Bruce, he told him that, "Oh, I found this guy at bobsled practice, and he used to play for the Calgary Stampeders."
Wow. You're like the Rock, the Chinese Rock.
Apparently apparently the Rock played for the Calgary Stampeders too. I don't know. It's hilarious. I just thought, I never thought things like this would happen, but honestly, swear to God, on my life, I lost his phone number, but I wish I still had it till this day. He gave me his phone number, told me to come back, because he's like, "Hey, you could be something in this industry." I should have listened to him, but I'm stubborn-headed. And we'll move on to the next thing.
So that's the first part of our conversation with Paul Cheng. And if you like that, well, hold on to your seats, because part 2 is coming up, and there's even more amazing stories. And I think the interesting thing that Paul finished with, he was talking about his potential career in professional wrestling. And what he didn't say in that last story was when he met the Hart family. And he came back and he told me this. He said he spent time with the family, and in particular, his talk with Stu Hart, and they were actually working in a character for him to develop as part of his pro career. So it wasn't just, an off chance discussion like, "Hey, you should be a professional wrestler." I mean, they started talking about some significant, you know, ideas for his career, and the ironic thing was that they wanted him to be a North Korean wrestler, obviously some kind of villain, but a North Korean wrestler, and his name was going to be Nuke Him. So nuke him, nuke him, and which is interesting because of what's happening politically now, and now that North Korea has nuclear capability, obviously who knows where that would have went. But as we get into part two, you'll even again hear more amazing stories from Paul, and he's very good at telling them. And I really encourage you to continue this journey with Paul Cheng. And any feedback you have, please contact us on Facebook at Strength Power Speed with no vowels, and also on Twitter at Strength Power Speed. And we'll be putting this on YouTube as well, and hopefully getting some interesting comments. But amazing fellow, amazing stories, and we look forward to introducing more of Paul Cheng to you in part two. Thank you.